You're going to have to keep talking so I know if there's sound or not.
Oh, test. Do we have sound?
Just a little
Can
bit.
anybody hear me? Okay.
Nope, wait, I'm not sure.
Is it loud enough? Can people hear me? Please, in the chat, let us know. Okay, so...
You're just going to have to keep talking. Why don't you tell me a story? Tell me that joke you told me the other day.
Okay, so... really like renting Mini Coopers because the radio is already tuned to NPR. And they're really getting the correct demographic when they're targeting me with that.
Tell us a little bit about Boy Drinks World, maybe, and JVS.
Oh, I should get some booze. I'm going to get some booze. Everybody wait right there.
Oh, wait. I think I know why.
Yeah?
There's a little toggle here that says unmute.
Oh! Can we...
Would you like to try that back in?
Can we try the mic? There we go. Testing?
Wait, hang on.
Oh. Everybody wait right there.
Oh, wait. I think I know why.
Yeah?
There's a little toggle here that says unmute.
Oh! Can we...
Would you like to try that back in?
Can we try the mic? What's happening right now?
I don't know.
Testing?
Wait, hang on.
Everybody wait right there.
Oh, wait. I think I know why. Well, that just mutes that, I think.
All right.
Okay, no, wait. I think it's working.
Oh, it was working. We just don't... We
Yeah.
don't want to use the microphone.
Well, if I unmic that, it just is.
Okay, I'm going to assume that you all can hear me. Please let us know in the comments or in the chat if you can hear us, if you have any comments or questions, and we're going to try to get started. I'm going to start this all over again. My name is Rom. I'm from Boy Drinks World. Boy Drinks World is a company of cocktail ideas and products, and we're here representing... We're not here representing anything. We're here shut in, locked down, and we're going to show you guys how to make some cool cocktail ingredients with minimal effort, minimal ingredients, and hopefully your drinking experience during this time or during any time will be improved by this. So please forgive the technical difficulties. There's probably, two people watching, and hi mom, hi dad. Anyway, so we're going to go over really quick how to make an oleo saccharum. Now, an oleo saccharum is a big fancy word, translates to oily sugar. None of that matters. What the whole point of it is that we're going to extract the flavor, the oil that's in the skin of the citrus that has a ton of flavor and aroma qualities, and we're going to extract the oils out of the skin of the citrus using sugar. Sugar is hydrophilic, which means that it pulls moisture out of things into itself, and so we're going to use sugar to pull the oils out of this fruit, and it's super easy to do. In fact, you may have, with your mom or grandma at some point as a kid, baked a cake, and she had you zest a lemon and put that zest into a bowl of sugar. If you haven't had that experience, I'm sorry, you should try it sometime. It's really great for baking, but that was an oleo saccharum. But what we're going to do today is a shortcut, a high-speed technique for like big cocktail flavors in a way that's super quick, super easy. Can anybody hear us? Are we getting any?
They can hear you. There's a bit of a lag.
There's a bit of a lag. Okay, well,
So, I guess just move slow.
Move slower. I'm going to move slow. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of things.
Talk slow.
So, all right. So let's just, without further ado, let's get started. I want to show this technique. I learned this technique a few years ago, and I've since kind of made it my own, and I think it's really interesting how few people know this technique. Now, to do this, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need some sugar. I'm using plain white sugar today. You could use raw sugar, raw sugar, demerara sugar. You could use organic sugar. I wouldn't use brown sugar or powdered sugar. But anyway, raw sugar it'll add other flavors that we're not trying to achieve today. But you can totally do that. It'll be delicious. It's just going to add kind of like a molassesy kind of flavor because there's more molasses content in a raw sugar. So we're using white sugar here today to keep it pure. We're going to use a little citric acid. If you don't have citric acid, they have it at the health food store. You can also order this on Amazon. If you don't have it, it's fine. Your drink will still be delicious, but this is really cool to have in the kitchen, useful for a lot of things. The other thing you're going to need is some citrus. Today I'm going to use limes, but you could use lemons. Recently we did one with tangerines that was super good. You could use an orange. Anything really where the skin has a lot of high impact citrus oil in it. And that's what we're trying to get. We don't want the juice or the flesh of the fruit. Although I would, if you're going to make cocktails for your friends and you're doing this, it's really efficient. You can juice the limes afterwards, have fresh lime juice, have your syrup, and especially if you don't have citric acid, having that fresh lime juice to go with the syrup, it's just going to make everything come into balance because you're balancing sweetness and acidity and you're making a delicious drink. But remember, this sounds complicated. I'm going to make it pretty easy. So we're going to start with the one piece of equipment that we really need, a couple other tools, but mostly you need a food processor. Now when I say a food processor, I don't mean a blender. I mean something with horizontal cutting blades like this. I've tried this in a blender, it does not work. The sugar kind of suspends up above the blade and the blade just spins. So you want something that's going to really agitate this mixture. So we're going to put the blade in the food processor, and I'm going to use...
I have a question.
Yes.
If we don't have a food processor, can we finally...
Oh, yes, absolutely. Okay, so great question. If you don't have a food processor, what do? No problem. You can just zest the citrus and put that zest in the sugar, throw it in a piece of Tupperware, leave it on the counter, throw it in the fridge, it doesn't matter. The sugar will pull those oils out. It'll just take longer. The food processor makes this super fast and super potent. So yes, if you just want to zest these, throw the zest in some sugar, in some Tupperware, and set it aside for a day or two until the sugar starts to look like the consistency of wet beach sand. You really want to let that sugar have the opportunity to pull those oils out. Now you could use a zester that pulls off tiny little pieces of zest, and that will give you more surface area to contact with your sugar. But since we're not doing that method, we're going to use the food processor. I'm just using a potato peeler, and I'm just going to take the potato peeler. I'm going to I've got a bowl here, and I've got a scale. You don't need a scale, but it's good to measure and know how much you're doing of everything for consistency, especially, and I'm going to do it and weigh it and tell you everything. So when you go, if you want to make this recipe bigger or smaller, you can use these numbers to do it your way. But you could just do, I think this recipe is going to work with the zest of 3 limes. Maybe I'll do 4. Let's see how it goes. But I want to keep this super simple, so zest of a few limes. So I've got this thing set to grams, and I'm just going to gently peel the skin off of these limes. Now, you don't really want the white pithy part of the lime. You just want the green outside. If you pull a little bit of the white pith, lime skins are super thin. You're going to pull some pith. It's fine. It's not going to make this bitter. It's not going to mess it up at all. But really, all we really want is the green, oily outside of the fruit. And remember to wash your fruit before you start as well. Now, so I'm just going to peel these really quick and see what they weigh. But like I said, use 3 limes for this. Probably more than enough. And like I said, keep it simple. We're going to use a cup of sugar, 3 limes, and my notes say 1.5 tablespoons of citric acid. You could probably use 1 tablespoon or 2. I would measure that stuff though because it's quite pungent, and we're not trying to make warheads here. If you don't have citric acid, I would recommend getting some. You can also use malic acid. A lot of high-end cocktail places will do something like this using a combination of citric acid, malic acid, and another acid that I don't remember. But the whole point, the reason they would do that is they're trying to perfectly replicate the acid balance of a lime or lime juice. I'm not necessarily trying to do that. I think the citric acid by itself is super delicious. And that's all I really want to do. And plus, it's, we're stuck at home. I've got citric acid, so I'm going to use it. And it is really probably the best thing.
What is citric acid?
What is citric acid? Oh, well, okay. So citric acid is an acid that is derived from citrus. The acidity in a lemon is 100% citric acid. Whereas in a lime, it's citric acid, malic acid, and a few other in small proportions. But it's about 90% citric acid in a lime. There's citric acid in orange juice as well. It's much less. So what this is a granulated, concentrated, pure citric acid that is dry. It's really nice, actually, if you want to liquefy some of that with some water and use that just to make your cocktails a little bit more acidic. That's always fun, too, especially for people that really like sour stuff. The intention is not to make the whole cocktail sour, unless that's what you like. The intention is to make it balanced, like a balance of sweet and sour. But, you can adjust this to your taste. If I use 1.5 tablespoons of citric acid and you want it really sour, do 2 tablespoons. It's cool. The stuff's not that expensive, and it tastes pretty good. So I just wouldn't do too much more than 2 tablespoons because it'll get really sour. Okay, so 3 limes. I'm going to zero out my scale here. Got 28 grams, basically an ounce of lime peel from 3 limes. In my notes, it says I put 3 to 4 limes or 40 grams. So it sounds like 4 limes. We're going to just do one more here. Now, when you're zesting fruit with a thicker skin, you can certainly get a lot less pith in there and not leave the fruit like this, how it's the flesh of the fruit is exposed. But some lime peels are so thin, and it's okay. This is gonna be fine. It's gonna be delicious, and it's gonna be a little like pretty green color because once again we're using the white granulated sugar, and that's gonna allow for that green color to really pop. And we're going to get no real added flavor other than the lime. Cool. All right, 4 limes, 36 grams. I think that's good enough. Probably more than enough. You get so much flavor out of this peel. The oil in here is so intense. I know it doesn't look like very much. but honestly, this is plenty. So we're going to put this in the food processor, like so, and we're going to get our sugar and a measuring cup, another tool I forgot to list. We're going to get 1 cup of sugar. I'm just going to scoop it right out of there. And we're going to put that measuring cup of sugar right into the food processor. Sugar away. Now, safety first, kids. This is a power tool. Don't lose any fingers on my watch. Anyway, we're going to close this up. And I'm going to pulse it. We don't want to obliterate this. We just want to pulse it. We want this to reach the texture of wet beach sand. You're going to see the granules of sugar start to get hydrated, and there's going to be little particles of lime peel left in here. That's totally fine. We're going to strain those out. We don't want to blend this to death. So I'm just going to pulse a few times. And this is a visual cue. Like, you can look at this now and you can see the sugar is starting to bind together a little bit. I want to go a little bit more than that, but it's already started. It's already done some of its extraction. I don't know how well you can see this, but it's starting to like cake and stand up a little bit. Cool. Now, I am going to process this right now. If you wanted it to get even stronger, you could throw this stuff in the fridge overnight just as it is, and it'll continue extracting that oil. But like I said, this recipe is designed for quickness and for ease, and this is pretty much ready to go. I'm going to pull this out here, and I'm going to disconnect this. And you can see, hopefully you can see, that the sugar is really clumped together. That's what you want. It's forming little boulders of sugar. That's because the moisture from the lime peel is really getting into that sugar, and the sugar is already green. So cool. That is that. I set the food processor off to the side. Don't forget to juice these limes. Fresh lime juice is always the best if you're having cocktails in the afternoon. And these are going to go bad super quick because we've removed nature's protective outer layer. So you want to juice these ASAP. If you don't want to juice them, I would recommend wrapping these in like saran wrap or cellophane, and that'll protect them in the fridge until you're ready to juice them. But I would just go ahead and juice them and have a drink. Cool. So this stuff is looking really good, and the longer you let it sit, the more it's just gonna like soak up that oil. So, but we're super good to go here. So I'm gonna take my bowl, and you could use a pitcher for this or a jar, doesn't matter. But I'm going to pull it out of the food processor and put it in a bowl. Cool. Now, we did 1 cup of sugar, so I'm going to do 1 cup of water. Doesn't matter what kind of water you use, whatever you drink is fine. I'm just going to use tap water because I've got my handy dandy bar right here. Now, this recipe is for cocktail syrup, so we're doing 1-to-1 sugar and water. If you wanted to make the best limeade you've ever had, do 5 cups of water to 1 cup of sugar, and it'll be absolutely delicious. So we've got our sugar, water, and lime here. I'm going to grab a spoon and I'm going to stir this. Now what we want here, because the sugar is already saturated with the lime oil, it's already moist and it's already melting. We're just going to stir this until the sugar melts. You might ask, why don't I cook this on the stove to melt the sugar? A couple reasons. A, I don't need to, because sugar pulls moisture to itself and will dissolve very quickly in this fashion. And then the other reason is that when you cook citrus oil, you really change the flavor. And I want this syrup to be super bright and delicious. And I'm not trying to can this or store this for any length of time. It's going to go into a jar in the fridge and it'll be used for cocktails. So, okay, we're going to stir this and just let this dissolve. While that's kind of getting going, I'm going to grab a strainer, a sieve, to get the peel back out.
Jar. That's gonna be messy.
Grab me a jar. Just going to grab a jar to strain this into. I'm using this strainer. You can use anything like this. And then again, another tool I forgot to mention. You could use cheesecloth if you don't have one of these. You need something though, just to get the lime peel back out. I like this one because the mesh is particularly fine, but it really doesn't matter. I got this one too. It's got like a wider mesh. Use what you have. The whole idea is to have a bigger cocktail. Not a bigger cocktail. The whole idea is to have a delicious cocktail and sit in the sun tomorrow and day drink on a Sunday. Okay, so this is almost dissolved. We'll grab that in a second. Let me just check to make sure this is dissolved. You really want to make sure that the sugar is completely dissolved, and we're about 95% there, so I'm going to stir this for a second. So this, just right here, is a delicious lime syrup. We have not added the citric acid yet, and that's kind of on purpose. It would be a lot faster if I did this all at once and added the citric acid already while I'm waiting for the sugar to dissolve. But I wanted to show you first what this looks like without anything else added into it. And then I'm going to add the citric acid, and that'll dissolve very quickly. And then we're going to be done, and it's going to be amazing. And then I'm going to make a drink, because I don't know about you, but I'm getting thirsty. All right, cool. So it's nice and green. Beautiful. My pig fell down. Okay. I'm just going to strain this into the jar. And this is where the magic happens. Look at that beautiful color. Look how pretty that is. That is all lime oil. That is making that beautiful color there. And that's going to be a really bright and vibrant syrup that we're going to mix with some rum and some soda water. And then I'm going to go sit on the porch and watch the sunset. Now, if you want to turn this syrup into something more complex, you can always do that. We did a syrup recently with tangerine peel, and I had made some tonic bitters, something we're going to have to cover in another episode. But the tonic bitters kind of turned that into a tangerine tonic syrup, and we were able to make tangerine gin and tonics with it. And with this, it'd be the same. It'd be like an extra limey gin and tonic. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. 20 seconds, guys. I want you to count.
You're supposed to sing?
What's that?
Are you supposed to sing?
Yeah. Somebody sing. Okay. Because of the lag, that was 20 seconds, believe it or not. Okay, cool. So, I'm going to set this aside. That lime peel is, it's still pretty green and vibrant, and you could potentially extract more oil out of there, but we don't really need it. This is already super limey because we used a lot of lime peel. If you only had one lime, you would just extract it for longer and try to pull more out of it, but we didn't need to because we had 4 limes. Beautiful. Really beautiful smelling. So, citric acid. I kind of wanted to make this recipe super easy and say you only need a tablespoon. Just to make it super easy. But this recipe really calls for a tablespoon and a half, which is the most complicated thing in the world to measure. We're going to start with a tablespoon of citric acid. And then a teaspoon of citric acid. And then a half a teaspoon of citric acid. Since nobody has a half tablespoon measure, that math works out. So that's a tablespoon and a half citric acid, 4 limes, cup of sugar, cup of water. And we're just going to dissolve that citric acid . And that's going to dissolve really quick. And then I'm going to put it in this this pretty jar here. As soon as I find a funnel. Another piece of equipment I forgot to mention you might need. Okay, we don't have any funnels, but I got a measuring cup. Cool, so we're just going to put this in a measuring cup here. And actually, where's that other jar? Let's use this jar. Let's use this jar. I've been told many times by people that a bartender shouldn't need a funnel. I still like to have one. I think that's kind of mean, but you know what? I guess if you're pouring things all day long, you get used to it. Cool. There we have our mixer. It's you might call this an elixir or a mixer because it's a concentrated syrup with the acid already built in. So if you're making a cocktail with this, you don't necessarily need to add any juice. And remember, the whole point here is to keep it as simple as possible. So let's get a glass. And some ice. Now the production crew might have made this ice like an hour ago, so hopefully it's frozen enough. But oh yeah, looks good. Cool. So, like I said, I'm trying to make a drink that's super simple, delicious, and refreshing. So we're just going to throw some ice in the glass here. Great. And then we're going to want one booze. In this case, I'm going to use this really cool single Agricola rum out of Michoacan. It's made from 100% estate-grown cane that they grow. Like I said, they grow out on the property, and they make this beautiful rum in Michoacan, Mexico. So I'm going to do 2 ounces. You could do 1.5 ounces, but who are we kidding here, huh? All right. Now for the elixir, you could do anywhere from 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce, kind of depending on how you want the cocktail to be. I'm just going to split the difference and do 3/4 of an ounce in each one. Now this will probably be pretty delicious just the way it is, but it's hot out. I've been talking for a while. I'm going to get some soda water. Beautiful. Couple of straws. And you could garnish this with a lime slice or, a flower or whatever, but tell me that doesn't look delicious. And now I've got a little syrup here. I'm just going to give that a gentle agitation. And when you're stirring something with bubbles, you want to be really gentle because you don't want to lose your bubbles. But just a little gentle up and down motion with the spoon. Beautiful. There you have it.
Thank you.
And one of my lovely assistants. Let's see here. That's great. So I know it looked like a lot of work, but really all we did is blend up some sugar and some lime peel, add a little citric acid, strain it, throw it in a glass with some booze and some soda water. Done. It's balanced. It's got acidity. It's got sweetness. You could adjust this recipe to the level of sweetness or acidity that you like, but this is pretty good. So I'm going to wrap this up. Before I go, I do want to mention you could do this with other things. I was walking my dog the other day and I saw a giant plant of rosemary, and I picked some fresh rosemary. Rosemary has a ton of flavorful oil in the leaves. And guess what? You do the same exact process with the sugar. The recipe I read recommended only doing about 1 gram of citric acid, but you can adjust that to your taste. You could mix lime peel and rosemary or lemon peel, whatever you want. It's your drink. All right, this is Rom from Boy Drinks World, and please like and subscribe the channel. We're hopefully going to produce some more of these, and hopefully the quality will get better and the technical difficulties will go down. So please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.